Well, the most dangerous words in the world, I think, and I've seen this, I agree with this statement. I don't know who made the statement that said the most dangerous words that you will ever hear is, we've always done it this way. It's a special project for a friend of mine that she had undergone breast cancer, or she was diagnosed with it. And I thought, oh man, I want to do something for her.
Right.
So I special ordered the material off of Amazon, because our local Joann's just doesn't carry it. It's
right.
Is just not in our area. So anyway, I went ahead and ordered it. And of course, before I start any project, I got to check it out just to make sure that there's nothing wrong with that material. And sure enough, like 3/4 of the way down, I said, oh, are you kidding me? Hole right in the center. I thought, So I told my husband, I said, look at this. He said, well, do you want to send it back? I said, you know what? I don't think I do, because I know the process, sometimes returning could be worse.
Right.
So I don't want to go through all that. I said, I'm sure I can come up with something. So that's when I started brainstorming, and I thought, okay, there's this much material. What can I do to make this happen? So I said, okay, I think I might be able to at least make pillows. And I thought, wait a second, there might be enough room for a scarf. So I went ahead and just kind of eyeballed it just to guess, to see what I could have to work with. I was like, okay, cool. So now the only problem was, I said there wasn't enough to do a double-sided Purdue blanket, which was the whole purpose. So that's when I said, okay, I'll just go back to Joann's and get enough material so I can, with the solid color, and just go with it from there. And that's what I did. So it worked out splendidly. Loved it.
So did you make a scarf or a quilt?
The things that she ended up with was a blanket, scarf, and then 2 throw pillows.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And did you so you just cut off the part that had the hole in it? You didn't try to cover it up or fix it or mend it or anything?
Nope, just covered it up. And I mean, I was actually kind of surprised myself, because I thought, wow, most people would have just scrapped the whole idea and said, oh, it's the whole project's ruined. But,
right.
You just kind of learn to work with it instead of getting upset. Try to figure out a way that you can make it work.
Does that make you happy?
Yes, it does. Because I had never actually, I've always done the blankets. I had never actually done a scarf or throw pillows. And I thought, there's a first time for everything. So I thought, I'll do it. And since I knew the process of how to do tie blankets, I thought, surely this can't be any more difficult. And it wasn't. The thing I had to remember, though, is to make sure before I did the whole pillow, is to make sure that I left enough room to put the stuffing in. That being, something that could easily be forgotten, and be like, oh, shoot, now I got to untie these and get that stuff in there. So it was a lot easier than I thought. So it was worth it.
Do you do a lot of sewing, constantly, or?
Not sewing, just the tie blankets. And it's basically, if I want to do it as a gift. When my family decided we were going to quit doing Christmas gifts, it was just getting ridiculous, because we were just exchanging the same $50 back and forth. It's like, okay, this is silly. Let's go ahead and just stop doing gift exchanges. And I thought, well, okay, they want to quit doing that, but I'm not quite ready. So I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and do something that I know is going to be appreciated and probably will get a lot of use. And that particular year, I made tie blankets for everybody. And I still get people saying, I use that blanket every day, even during the summer. I'm thinking, because if your AC is on, you don't really want to turn your AC off, but you kind of want to be able to huddle up and, it is nice and warm. I mean, I get compliments all the time about how it's the best blanket ever, their favorite one.
Well, neat. That's really cool. So, is salvaging a part of your mindset? like, do you look for things to salvage that you can, like, do you add pretties to your blankets or anything like that?
I mean, when you say look for ways to salvage it, what was the question again?
Like, do you look for things to salvage to put on your creations, or do you just whatever?
Just whatever. That's probably the best way to say it. I just kind of just go with it. And, I don't try to make it fancy schmancy, just try to see what I can do with, what I've got. I mean, you learn how to do that. And I think one of the ways I've learned how to be creative is been a preschool teacher for years. And there won't be I will plan a project and it'll be something specific I want to do. And I'm like, oh man, I don't have this particular item. So I look at what I actually have and say, okay, I can't do it this way, but I've got these items, so I can still do it. I'm just going to have to go about it a different way. To give you an example, what I did is one year I wanted to make reindeer with popsicle sticks with the kids. And I thought, oh, this will be really cute. And I'll just have them glue on a little nose and eyeballs and we'll make a little ornament out of it. And I thought, the day came around and I said, oh, crud, I don't have popsicle sticks. So project, because, we have whatever we put on our lesson plan, we have to do. So I said, okay, what do I have? Well, I found that I had brown construction paper. So I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and what I did is I kind of folded it into a triangle and then folded the ends for ears. I did their hands for the antlers and then had them glue on eyes and a nose. I mean, I had to think creatively and I mean, it had to be done somehow, some way. I never said how I was going to do it. Thank God. I gave myself some leeway. Okay, we're just going to make a reindeer that day. So I had a lot of leeway.
So it's a mindset. Like, I was a teacher too. I taught second grade, so I know just what you're talking about. And it just switched right into my, just moved right into my, when I started fabric art, because you look at what you have and you start using it rather than going and spending more money on, just exactly what you had in your head in the first place. So I think, it's just a mindset. How can I make this work? You have to think creatively. And I really like that. Do you have places where you go that to find stuff, like salvage stuff? Like, I go where there's a secondhand clothing store in our town, and the lady takes like buttons and bracelets and all these things off of Reuben clothes and stuff, and she puts them together in little baggies. And, I buy those and I can use them all over the place. All these neat, pretties, like I have this, this came off a bracelet. Can you see this little thing here?
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah. And I had it for a long time. I didn't know what to do with it. And then I was making this Christmas tree and I needed a star for my top of my tree. And there it is. I put two of those together and I have a really unique Christmas star. So, I mean, do you have places like that you go? And
no, not usually. I mean, like I said, now sometimes when I'm at Joann's, I might be able to get a deal on fabric because a lot of times they have leftover material. They don't have enough for bigger projects, but they might have something for a smaller project. And I might, at least look to see what they have. I usually haven't found enough for what I want to do, which is usually a blanket. And I usually want to make it adult size. And usually it's just a hair shorter than what I would like to have. So, I mean, they want to get rid of it. And sometimes you can get a discount. And if I happen to get a good deal and looks like there's going to be enough, well, heck yeah, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. I mean, why spend more than you have to?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. one of the things I do, like when I go to the thrift store and I find these old T-shirts that, nobody would wear, but they have really nice necklines sometimes, like really pretty things. And I just cut that out. Like I'm looking at this and it just says Middle Eastern to me, like Taj Mahal or something like that, And I think I'm going to use it someday in something like that. Or I save buttons and I save just anything I can find. And I have so much stash, I'm embarrassed to say it, but it makes me really happy when I can use something that I have salvaged from somewhere else, Or you see this quilt behind me? I found it in an antique store, and it had holes all through it. Holes. So Susanna found me some fabric. Oh, here it is. It's the only fabric we could find on Amazon that had these little roses on it. So I spent hours fusing this stuff and cutting out every little rose. And then I've put them all over where the holes were. And now I have a beautiful antique quilt that's in perfect condition. And I only spent about $5 for this fabric and some of my time. So that's, I really like that. Yeah. So I don't know. Well, I don't have a lot of extra money to spend, so it makes me feel really good about myself when I can come up with unique ways to use something. And I get really bored with the patterns that are made, and everybody makes the same thing in lockstep. And I just like to really go out on my own and branch out. And even if I do make something that comes from a pattern, I like to put my own stamp on it by adding things that I've salvaged and, stuff like that. So, I don't know. I just enjoy it so much. And I was so excited when Susanna told me that one of her copyright friends was doing the same thing, because I have never gotten a brand new piece of fabric that had a big hole in it. And I'm like, oh, and as she told me that, I'm like, what would I do with that? Like, how would you go about salvaging it, fixing it? And then my first thought was I'd cover it up. And then, that's what you did. And that's great. I think that's wonderful. Oh.
Well, and when you're talking about that quilt, I never would have guessed that you had repurposed that quilt.
Yeah.
Material. I would have just thought, oh, that's just part of the pattern. I never would have guessed that. Now, because you told me, now I know, but it looks beautiful. I mean, a million years though.
But there were quite a few little holes, but there were more in one place than another. So I'm like, oh, that's going to look odd. So I put extra ones where there were no holes to make it look like it was supposed to be that way. And it works just great. And I have this beautiful antique quilt, and I got it for like $5.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I love to, I go look at their quilts quite a bit. And I got this baby quilt, and it's all in sage greens and creams and roses, but it was boring. So then I got like sage green and rose velvet and leather kind of fabric and a fleece. And I cut bunnies and little kittens out of it. And then I put them all over one side. And then I got this braid, rose and cream and sage green braid. And I joined them all up like they were tugging on both ends and all that. And now it's an adorable baby quilt rather than just this boring striped fabric, So I really enjoy doing things. That makes me happier than actually starting from scratch using new fabric and, making something out of that. I really like doing that. So, I don't know, it makes me feel righteous.
Well, but that is kind of neat, though, to be able to just it's not necessarily. So they're so focused on the problem that the solution could be staring them in the face, and they aren't looking at that. Their focus just stays on the problem. It's like for every problem, there is a solution. You just have to step back. And I had to walk away, just to think, okay, instead of getting mad, which, that would have been most people's response.
Right.
And I just said, I can't get mad about this because I don't know what happened, but that, it's not the end of the world. The rest of the material, most of it is still salvageable. So it's not like it's a complete lost cause. Now, if it had been torn from one end to the other and like came in shreds, well, of course that would be a problem, but that wasn't the issue. And, I didn't see it as big of an issue. I just kind of worked with it. And that's what you just got to do is just, try to figure out different ways you can, maybe still do the same thing. Like I said, having been a teacher and still, being a preschool teacher now while doing some copywriting is the skill that I've learned along the way. You just figure things out and try not to let every little problem you run into trip you up.
Does it take you time sometimes for the solution to come to you? Like sometimes it takes, when I'm trying to think of how to do something, or make something work, I have to ruminate on it for like days or a week or two sometimes. And then the solution just floats into my head just like that, comes in real slow and quiet. Is that how, or do you have like bright stars and flashing lights or?
Now, a lot of times sometimes I can walk away for a few minutes and it'll come to me, but other times I might have to go a day or two. But I'll try not to put too much focus on it, but I'll still be thinking about it. And something will come my way like, oh, why don't I go ahead and try this? And my sister works in IT. And that was the thing she told me. She says, rule number one, when any problem you run into has got you so frustrated, get up and walk away. She taught me to do that. She says, sometimes the worst thing you can do is just keep sitting there because you're drawing a blank anyway. You're going to drive yourself nuts. She says, just walk away. She says, if you can, have a stiff drink. But she said, obviously you can't do that depending on what the project is. But she said, but really walk away. She says, it really will help you. And it does, because you can regroup and you're kind of separate yourself from the problem. And actually, they teach us that in AWAI. They say, when you write something, write it and then walk away from it. Maybe let it ruminate for a day or two and then come back, revisit it. And that does help. I mean, it really does. You come back with a fresh way of thinking and you may think, oh, why did I write that? Or why did I do it that way?
Yeah. I find myself when I'm thinking about how to fix something, like you can't see this behind the quilt, but it's my shelf with all of my tubs of my stash. And I sometimes just stand there and look at it for, an hour or more, look at everything I have. And then I walk away and I let it burble its way through my brain, and eventually I usually come up with something. And I really find that it makes me feel clever, and I like it when I feel clever. And, but walking away, getting up and walking away from something I'm going to do this, and sometimes the girls physically have to grab me by the arm and say, get out of this office right now. So, well, that's really neat. I'm so glad you figured it out like that. I mean, it's hard to find people to talk to who actually think outside of the box, that think creatively and appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? I know. I mean, there's some quilters I've run up on and they're just like, well, that's not how it's done. And that's not how the pattern says it is. And that's not how, and I'm like, well, that's the whole point of fabric art. You do it your own way. And, and for me, I use whatever I can to make it unique. And because I want my pieces to be one of a kind. And, anybody who has one knows where it came from. It's not like, oh, where did I get that? And stuff. I really want it to be unique. And salvaging things and I did a mermaid quilt, and I had a mermaid tying a knot in a fishnet on it. And I had this beautiful brooch I found somewhere and I put that on, and it's so pretty, and it's like it's holding the rope. And it's just like, you know what? Whoever gets that will just, it's so unique. And there's only one of those that I ever have found that, it screams you.
Right.
And yeah. And I think that's great. And plus it keeps our brains young.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, and you know how you're talking about how some people say, well, if you did it wrong and not so many words. Well, the most dangerous words in the world, I think, and I've seen this, I agree with this statement. I don't know who made the statement. They said the most dangerous words that you will ever hear is, we've always done it this way.
Oh,
I mean, come on. Sometimes the reason why, you've always done it this way and it keeps failing is because you're not thinking, okay, it's that old saying, you can't do the same thing every day and expect different results. You can't. You got to try different things. And if it doesn't work, so what? On to the next. I mean, yes, it's frustrating. And yes, I think we all get frustrated. But like, again, walking away does help. That's like, okay, breathe. It's not that serious. And something will come when you stop really brooding on it. Stop really putting your focus on it. Walk away, maybe read a book, do something just to get your mind off of it. And when you quit thinking so hard, the solution will present itself. That's the way it's worked for me.
That's why copywriting be a really great fit for you, because copywriters, from living with Susanna and watching her do her thing, it's totally outside of the box. And, it just fits really good with the whole creativity, the fabric art, the sewing, the salvaging. It's all outside of, we've always done it this way, and I think that's great. I can just see why you fixed it instead of, sending it back. It's just completely rational to me. So well, that's wonderful.
The return process can sometimes be a bigger pain than anything. So it's like, do I really want to do that? I mean, Amazon may not have given me a hard time over it, but I thought, what if I end up with the same thing? So what? They don't give me a hard time on the return, but I come back and I have either the same problem or a different problem. So I thought, just go with what you have, because sometimes that could have turned out worse. And I still probably would have dealt with it. She may not have gotten a blanket. She may have gotten a couple other things, but my whole point of it was doing that blanket. And I was so happy, instead of getting one big gift, she got 4. So again, it got better than planned.
Yeah. So that's a real win-win.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I really admire you for that. I think that's wonderful. I admire creative thinking. I really do. And, when Susanna told me about that, she said she got this fabric and it had a big hole in it. And I'm just looking at her blinking like, wow, and she did something with it. So right away, I'm like, I want to talk to her. And so thanks a lot for coming on and visiting with me. I appreciate it a lot.
Yes. Well, I feel like I know you, even though I've not met Susanna in person, that kind of pay attention to what she posts on our writers group. I know she hasn't been on lately. She's probably been pretty busy, but yeah, I have really enjoyed this too. And I'm glad that it might help somebody. Somebody is bound to look at this and say, oh, I never thought about, how different ways I could make something new and different. Maybe not exactly what I had planned, but it
often turns out better than the original idea. That's what I find. So yeah, well, if you ever come up with another creative thing, let us know. I want pictures. I want to know what happened. So
absolutely. Did Susanna show you the pictures? I think she put them on that site.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, so that way you could see the finished product.
Yeah. Is that behind you? Is that or is that just a picture on your wall that I see?
My wall, and I've got a couple of Star Wars pillows.
Oh,
big Star Wars.
Yeah, but she did show it to me, and I was just really impressed. And we're going to share it with our viewers and stuff. So you're going to be famous.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to do this. And again, I hope this helps other people really, stop thinking about the problem and try to see, okay, so this is what I'm up against. What can I do differently that, may not be the same project, but could, like you said, turn out better. And in this case, it did. So I'm hoping that someone will be helped by this, my story and everything.
I think maybe I'm going to change it from the title or whatever, like what I call it, like instead of salvaging, maybe I'll call it in honor of you. I'll call it the reindeer problem or the reindeer fix. From now on, that's how I'll think of it in my head. It's a reindeer fix.
Right.
So,
I mean, And I mean, if you want to add that portion about me, talking about my project that I've done with the kids that I work with, you can add that in there too.
You bet I will.
But again, this has been very enjoyable, and I was looking forward to it. I really was. I thought, oh, cool. This is going to be neat to be able to share this, and of course, to get to meet you and everything. So
great. Well, I've really enjoyed it too. It was nice meeting you.
Yes, nice meeting you too.
Have a happy day.
Okay, you too. Have a great day.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, all.
Bye.